Man, I'm an MC. I'm a writer. I'm a dad, first and foremost. Man, I love people and I love hip hop. When we talk about my musical background, as I can say, I've always been part of a musical family.
You are now listening to the BV Mobile Apps Podcast. The show is designed to help you grow your mobile app audience and get advice from experts in your industry. Now, here's your host, Sean Garvey.
Hey, what's going on, family? It's the architect himself, Sean Garvey, the host of BV Mobile Apps Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the podcast. Now, if you want to learn more information about BV Mobile Apps, or if you are in the market of getting your app customized, what are you waiting for? Go to their website, bvmobileapps.com. That's bvmobileapps with an S at the end.com. Get your app customized today, bvmobileapps.com. Let me tell you something before we go to our next guest. Now, if you've been listening to BV Mobile Apps Podcast for almost a year now, we have done multiple shows interviewing people in the entertainment industry on how to grow your business. I had the opportunity and the pleasure of interviewing DJs, interviewing CEOs, interviewing entrepreneurs, people that are making it in the industry. But what I love most about hosting the BV Mobile Apps Podcast is the opportunity to interview great artists. And I've been following this artist for quite some time now, over the past few years. He's been a supporter of my Beat Break radio movement. He's been on the Beat Break morning show before. And outside of that, he has done a lot of great things in the hip hop industry. He has also participated in other forms of media, acting, a writer for Rolling Out magazines. He has done a whole lot. And I've been waiting for this opportunity in this moment to interview this guy, because not only he does all of that, ladies and gentlemen, but he has his own app, courtesy of BV Mobile Apps. The guy that I'm talking about right now, right here on the BV Mobile Apps Podcast, is the one and only Precise from the Go, Chicago.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You like that introduction?
That was a great intro, man. I need to bring that with me. Can we record that? That was awesome. Yeah, man.
Hey, I was just
a pleasure to be here.
Hey, the pleasure, it is all mine. I said to myself before going into this podcast, it is about time that we have you on the show. You have so much to talk about, so much great things happening in your world, and I am just thankful to have you on the podcast to not only talk about what you are doing, but also talk about various things that can help aspiring artists make it in the industry, as well as activism. With all the things happening in the world right now, it's very paramount that we mix hip hop with activism together than ever before. Activism has always played an instrumental role in hip hop, but with all the different things happening in the world right now, I just think, as a hip hop connoisseur, I just think that it's now time to really engage more activism in this genre that we love so dearly. We're going to talk about that and then some. But for those people listening to us right now here on the BV Mobile Apps Podcast, talk to our listeners about your music background and where you come from.
What's up, bro? This is Heist from the south side of Chicago. I was known wow to my people who know. If you know, you know. Man, I'm an MC. I'm a writer. I'm a dad, first and foremost. Man, I love people and I love hip hop. When we talk about my musical background, as I can say, I've always been part of a musical family. My dad was in a band. He used to have rehearsals at the house. My sister's an opera singer, and I'm the one who decided to delve deep into this culture of hip-hop and become an MC. So it's something that I've always been doing. I initially started off as a DJ because, from Chicago, House music being like the anchor here when it comes to the music of the city. I became a DJ so I could spin house music, and then that morphed into me wanting to be an MC after seeing a few movies, hearing a few records, and I decided I wanted to rap. So one day I picked up my pen, I wrote a rap, I did a talent show, I found the buzz, and that was, honestly, that was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Wow, it's a long time. But then I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, 25 years ago. I want to follow up with something that you just said a few moments ago, and I'm learning something new from you. You used to be a DJ, and it helped you from being a DJ to being an MC, a lyricist, a rapper. What equipment were you using at the time when you was a DJ?
So that's funny. It's funny that you asked that because, when I was DJing, the tables to have at the time were Technique 1200s. But I didn't have money for Technique 1200s. And my boy John Evans, shout out to him, he got 1200s, but he let me use them before that. And that was a Panasonic and a Bell Drive Gemini and a Radio Shack mixer. And that's how I was DJing. And I did parties with that equipment.
Wow, that is crazy. Do you still have the equipment at home?
Man, I don't even know what happened with that equipment, man, but what it taught me about was rhythm, really keeping on pace, because with the bell drive, you don't have, I don't want to get too technical, but with the bell drive, you don't have that much control as you do with the Technique, which made the Technique so unique in what they were, and why people got them. But it really showed me timing, how to find a pocket, and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know plenty of people that have the Techniques at home or at their studio. And now in the new age of technology where everything is so advanced now, you have newer versions of Serato and new versions of Techniques and everything. If you had to go back to being a DJ, what kind of equipment would you invest in, or would you use to this very day?
If I had to go back, I would still get Techniques, only for this reason. And this isn't anything against Serato or anything like that, but now you don't really have to be skillful, if that makes sense. So it's about music selection, but the technology does everything for you. The technology finds your BPMs. The technology does the blend for you. So I still would want to be able to basically kind of play my own band. You know what I'm saying? You can do more now with the technology, and I'm not against it at all. But I always wanted to have my own set of techniques in a coffin with a dope mixer, and just go in different places with it. I would still get that, but at the same time, Serato would probably be, if we're talking modern time equipment, Serato will probably lead the way, and I'll probably mix it with CDJs or CDRs, whatever they call them now.
Yeah. Would you recommend that to a beginner or to a DJ who's just starting out in the game, like the CDJs? Would you recommend that to them?
I would, but you don't need those anymore because you can honestly mix off of your phone using MP3s.
Yeah.
The CDJs are cool, but now, let me retract that. I would probably mix with MP3s just because they're more accessible. They're quicker. I don't have to carry around a bunch of to music or music. So MP3s will probably be the way to go right now, just because the accessibility and how quickly you can get to it.
Right. I agree. And carrying all that vinyl in all the crates and stuff like that back in the day, it was tedious. It was so tedious.
It was.
Yeah. So that's enough about your days as a DJ. Let's fast forward to the MC Precise, and I'm gonna tell this story to our listening audience a little bit about how I got to know you. It was through your people. This was a few years back. still doing radio. It was through your people, and your people sent me this song called It's On Me. I had a chance to hear it at a particular point in time. Because as a DJ, I would get so many songs sent to me by artists asking me or telling me, Sean, yo, you got to hear my record. It's a banger. And I'd be like, okay, I'll listen to it when I get a chance. And that could be weeks and weeks and weeks. You know what I mean? But I finally sat down and I listened to this particular record that your people sent to me, Precise Is On Me. And when I first heard just only a few seconds into the song, I was like, whoa, this was definitely a breath of fresh air. It gave me that vintage 90s boom bap feel that I wasn't feeling in such a long time. Do you consider yourself as a boom bap artist, or do people consider you as a boom bap artist, or is it both?
I think it's both. And for a while, when I just feel like I'm a product of where I come from in terms of how I found the music and where I found it and where I found my passion for it. So definitely I consider myself a boom bap artist.
Let's talk about, let's still stick into the era of boom bap for a moment. When I think of boom bap artists, I think of people like Wu-Tang and Black Moon, and so many artists that came from that era. Were those the artists that influenced you into being a boom bap artist?
I would say KRS is the main one who influenced me like that. But then when we talk about Black Moon or Wu-Tang or even Nas for that matter, when those albums dropped, that was all that was in my headphones. So kids, I had a thing called I had a thing called what do you call them? Cassette player.
Oh, that thing! I almost forgot about them.
It was called a Walkman way back in the day. But anyway,
yeah,
I had a Sony Walkman, and I used to work out in a Chicago suburb that was like probably an hour outside of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the music that I would always ride to in my headphones. So it was Nas, it was Written, it was Black Moon, Into the Stage, and Donald Byrd, the best of Donald Byrd. So, in terms of like where my musical taste comes from, it's really that kind of explains it, just those three projects. But to answer your question more specifically, KRS is the one who really kind of opened up the door to, opened up the door to this passion that I have for hip-hop and rap music.
Mm-hmm. When I listen to your sound, speaking of boom bap, KRS-One, and I'm glad you mentioned him, KRS-One comes to my mind, as well as Rakim and Slick Rick and Black Thought of the Roots, Guru of Gang Starr, God Rest the Dead, Mos Def, just to name a few. Are these artists not just only people that influence you, but listening to these artists, they are also storytellers and activists in their music. When you hear their music, you hear activism in their songs. And so listening to songs like It's On Me and a few other songs that you have put out before It's On Me and after It's On Me are songs about different subjects happening in places like the South Side of Chicago. Those artists that I just named, do you think those artists have helped you bring awareness to the disparities happening in places all across the country, including Chicago? Like, did those artists help you bring that activism out of you?
First of all, for you to say that any of those artists that you just named, my music reminds you of them, I'm very humbled by that. When it comes to the activism that's in the music, it really does come from what I listen to coming into the culture. If you listen to early KRS-One, I mean, even from the very time he started when he was battling people, I mean, he really came with a purpose. There are things that I didn't know about, learn through the music. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There are books in the Bible that I didn't know about that I learned through KRS-One.
Yeah.
I learned about Minister Louis Farrakhan. I live in Chicago, mind you, but I learned about the minister from Chuck D. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, so I understand what this means. So I understand what it means to have this voice. So if I'm going to have any type of voice, even if it's the most minuscule voice, which I don't think it is, but let's say my voice isn't on the same level as a Jay-Z where he moves the culture the way he does. But if I'm able to have this conversation with you on this podcast, I want it to be something that's adding value to the culture. I want it to be something that edifies the culture in a way that people understand that this is not about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know what I'm saying? This is a culture that was designed to create a community that is adding value to the world, and that's what it's doing right now. And so that's the whole purpose of even why I create music. So to answer your question again, I mean, when it comes to the activism, that has influenced me. Every single one of them, that Slick Rick to Black Dog to all, they come to the music and they show and prove all the time.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to hip-hop MC from Chicago, Southside Chicago, on the telephone lines. I'm talking about Precise. We're talking about activism and hip-hop. We're talking about all things considered Precise and just his introductory into the hip-hop game, into the music industry. Let's stick on the subject of activism for a moment. I mentioned earlier that in these days and times right now, a lot of things are happening. Let's start with the South Side of Chicago, or not just only South Side of Chicago, but the West Side of Chicago as well. You know, Chicago gets a bad rep when we hear about this city on the news and in the media. So many people over the years and years have been murdered, have been attacked, and you hear about it. You hear about the high crime rates in these areas. And as an artist, as an activist in hip hop, what is your take on the whole situation, or the light, I should say, the light being put on Chicago for its violence and its poverty and its disparity?
So before, I would sometimes I would take issue as, because Chicago is being used in this spotlight when you really look at the stats, Chicago isn't even listed one of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the world or in America. But at the time, I see these shootings and by these kids where there's something missing with respect to values and with respect to honoring what life is. So I find myself in a unique position. Every year, also, again, I'm a writer for rollingout.com, and every year I do a series with mothers who've lost their children to gun violence in the city of Chicago. So whenever I have conversations with these mothers, what it makes you realize is that these are people's children. They're human beings. They shouldn't be used as pawns for political gains, right? Mm-hmm. And then what it also makes me realize is that there is a sense of love and respect that we have lost in the community, that we are taking lives in a way that you're taking lives as easy as someone would take a breath.
Mm.
So now, and that's what needs to be addressed. So we can talk about all the programs and all the jobs that need to be re-implemented into the city, and all of these things are necessary. We have too many youth who are out of work. We have too many youth who don't have any opportunity. But what is it? What is it that we're really missing? And I really think it has to do with love and having access to a real family structure and loving each other and loving yourself, because that's what's lacking. And I don't even want to put that spotlight on Chicago like that. I feel like that's a nationwide problem that's happening right now, and it's showing up in so many different ways, from shootings on the south and west side of Chicago to school shootings, in towns across the United States and rural United States, to mass shootings in some random movie theater throughout the world. What's happening? People have lost touch with the humanity and what it means to love and respect one another, and it's causing all these things to happen around the world.
Mm-hmm. Artists from Chicago like Common to Kanye West to even Chance the Rapper spoke out about the various things happening in Chicago, but also have done amazing work in Chicago. And you also had local organizations in that area, people on the ground helping to bring awareness of the things happening in Chicago and doing something about it. And as far as you as an artist, putting it in your music, that has helped a whole lot too. In your honest opinion, what can artists do more? Whether you're an artist from Chicago or outside of Chicago and you're from a different area where you experience the same type of totality as a Chicago or as a Baltimore or as a Compton or a few other places across the country, what can artists do more to bring light, to bring attention to all these different adversities happening across the country in our own backyards, in our own neighborhoods? What can we as artists do more?
I think what we can do more of is deliberately change the narrative. So every artist isn't going to have some organization or even know how to be an organizer, but use your voice to change the narrative. So you mentioned Common, you mentioned Kanye and Lupe. What I love about my brothers is that they have deliberately chosen this voice that they've been given to speak life into the world. That's what we can do more of as artists. And it sounds so simple, but what happens is when you get paid to talk about shooting, killing, robbing, deviancy and all of these things, it becomes easier to do that. Right now, we live in a world where it's hard to love. We need to do the hardest thing right now, and that's love each other and spread that through our word and through our music. I understand when people talk, when they have, their stories and they want to shed light on a specific situation, and that's necessary. But right now, we really have to turn. So in terms of what artists can do, again, I would say just be more deliberate with your message, be more deliberate with the intent, and speak more life into the world.
Wow, that is very, very insightful advice. Just become more involved in your community, and not only be that voice of the people, but also be that new voice that nobody hasn't heard. We hear Common speak, we hear Minister Louis Farrakhan speak, but we need more new people to speak for the people, for the community, and get more involved. What about as far as the political landscape? I feel, in my personal opinion, we need to do a lot more in the political arena. And that's why you start to see more and more artists, whether they are from Chicago or other places across the country, speak out about it in their music and open forums. Like, for example, Killer Mike. Killer Mike is not from Chicago, obviously, but he is from my hometown, Atlanta. Shout outs to Killer Mike. Yeah. He's very open about the views and perspective. He's open about his views and perspectives on different things happening politically. So as far as the political arena goes, where are you at right now with hip hop and politics? Do you see Do you see more and more artists getting involved into the political arena, and if so, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, just look at it like this. So if we do a timeline now, we said hip hop was born in, let's say, 1971, right? Mm-hmm. So we're into the 48th year of hip hop at this point. So all of these artists who have come up through the ranks at some point have to recognize how important it is to become socially active in your community. I think there should be more of it. Shout out to Rhymefest who ran for a political office in Chicago. Yes. He didn't win, but he still made that. He showed that is possible. Shout out to Scarface and Willie D, who are running for political offices in their city, and shout out to people like T.I. and Killer Mike, who are being extremely vocal about what this means to be politically active in your community. So what I really liked about what happened at the forum that Killer Mike was on was that there were actionable things that he spoke about. So it wasn't about a pie in the sky and just feeling good and all of this. Basically, it was a situation where, look, if you need to make a change in your community, number one, you need to find out who the congressman is in your community. You need to find out who the aldermen are, speak to them, come with an agenda. If they don't meet your agenda, vote them out. That's what it is. So again, just to come back to what our voice is, because we may not be able to affect politics on a national level, but on a local level, we definitely can. So we need to be able with clear, definitions and use our. And what's happening now, because the reason why I brought up that timeline is that there's no separation from the culture of hip hop to what the political landscape is now. KRS said something a couple years ago where he said it wouldn't be so far-fetched that the next president of the United States would have been a DJ or would have been a rapper. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because this is what we are. This is where we are in the culture. So there's no separation in it. We need to embrace it more and be more actionable from that space.
And we're talking about actionable items. Very, very important. On a local level, especially in the election season that we're in right now. And I feel like hip hop has played a pivotal role in where we at now politically. I'll say both good and bad. Precise. I say both good and bad. Good was that we've been very heavily involved in the era of Obama. We've been heavily involved in that, and we become more heavy. I mean, just like Compton getting its first black female mayor. And what's so interesting is that with hip hop being an era that was created by young people, they say that young people were never ever involved in politics and in community activism. But we always have through hip hop, even before hip hop. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Before hip hop.
Way before hip hop. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was in his 20s when he got into activism. Same way with Malcolm X and a few others. Yeah.
not to cut you off, but when you say that, I always think about the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were in their 20s. They were feeding children breakfast in the morning before school and after school, creating a space so they could come learn, do their homework, and feeding them. These are people in their 20s. Every time I think about that, it blows. And even to fast forward now, there are people so shout out to Bobby Rush, who was a Black Panther, who is now in the political landscape of Illinois, and who's being vocal and actionable because of that fervor that he had as a youth. He continued that and used it to move through the ranks of politics in order to make a change. And it starts with the youth, but it has to keep going.
Okay. Now that's definitely some great information on how people can give back in their own way in the community. And it doesn't even just have to be hip hop. It can be other forms of media, or even going out in the streets, going out in your communities and telling people, make sure that you register to vote. Make sure you know who you voting into office. Do your research. Do your due diligence. Read a book. and
Or it could be as simple as picking up a piece of garbage and putting it in the garbage can.
Yeah. Facts.
It could really be that simple. Like seriously, okay, vote. Precise says vote. I think it's valuable to vote. I mean that. That's my message. But can we stop throwing stuff out the window into the street in our own communities? I was in we were talking off air, and I was mentioning I was in Atlanta recently, and I stayed in Buckhead, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this community, Buckhead, affluent community and everything, and I don't see litter in Buckhead. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't see that. I don't see nobody throwing out litter in the community like that. Just saying that there's somebody there who clearly has value for where they live, and they don't throw trash around their community. I always think that's like a simple lesson, because I see it all the time in my community. It starts there. Like just little things, man. Like just don't find a garbage can. Don't throw the wrap out. Don't feel like you need to be loud at 3:00 in the morning in front of your neighbor's house.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Just those type of things. Like if you don't do those things, that's just as much activism as it is as placing a vote for your favorite alderman.
That's facts right there. Precise right here on the BV Mobile Apps Podcast with Sean Garvey. I want to switch gears and talk about your writing skills with Rolling Out Magazine. You've been a contributor to Rolling Out Magazine for quite some time now. How were you able to get the deal to work as a contributing writer to Rolling Out Magazine?
I have my own blog. It's precisemusic.com. Music is spelled with a Z. So I have my own blog, so I've always been writing anyway. Mm-hmm. And I was going, it's interesting that the segue is from politics, because I was going to a rally I was going to perform at a Barack Obama library that they're building here in Chicago. This was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm going to perform, and as I walk in, a brother by the name of T.J. Crawford, he's a notable activist in the city of Chicago. He's made a lot of things happen. We started actually Black Culture Week, which happens between July. It happens early July and goes up. No, it happens during Juneteenth and goes into July. But anyway, when he saw me and he asked me, he was like, "Hey man," he asked me if I was still writing. I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You want to write for Rolling Out?" I was like, "Sure." I ended up going to a meeting. There were maybe like 15 other people there, and I just looked at it as an opportunity to have my voice heard. And next thing you know, I was writing for the magazine, and then a couple of years later, they titled me city manager, and now I'm still with the magazine, and I'm very proud and privileged to be part of it.
What are some of the articles? What are some of the articles you wrote about with Rolling Out Magazine, just to give our aspiring writers some details about what you wrote previously for Rolling Out Magazine?
So first of all, I want to shout out Munson Steve. He's this brother's been running this black publication from Atlanta for almost 20 years right now, where a lot of our publications are folding. So kudos to Munson for really being able to continue to have Steve Media thrive and Rolling Out thrive. It's amazing. The series that I'm most proud of are the ones that I've done with the mothers who lost their children because of gun violence, because I provide them a platform to share their voice. I've also interviewed people like Snoop Dogg, who else? Fonte from Little Brother. I've interviewed Common. Man, the list goes on and on. I cover concerts. I do everything. I really don't. MC Lyte was probably one of my most memorable interviews. Even down to a newer school artist like Polo G, who's one of the up-and-coming MCs out of Chicago. So being able to be a contributing writer and city manager for Rolling Out here in Chicago opens up different doors for me, and it allows me to have great experiences and share them with people, in the world.
Now, for the writers and the journalists, I come across so many aspiring writers and journalists that want to write for a publication like Rolling Out Magazine. And they just have this huge passion to write about different things happening around the world and in their community. How can one get involved in writing for a major publication like Rolling Out Magazine or any other publication that is out there? How can one get his or her foot in the door to do that?
Well, first and foremost, I am looking to build a team, so you can reach out to me at @precise_CHI on Instagram. But really now, the game is you can start your own publication. Setting up a blog is free. That's how I started writing. And, just for my story, someone recognized that I was a writer and they invited me into the fold. I think that's the first thing to do is really kind of develop your voice. Another thing that's been a blessing for me for being part of Steve Media is that it's actually taught me how to write in terms of the technical aspect of writing. Because you know how it is now, man. Like everybody pick up a mic and they say they're a radio DJ, or everybody pick up a mic and say they're a podcaster, or everybody pick up a pen and say they're a writer. So you can say that, but then there are things that you have to know in order to make it work properly. Like before we had a conversation on this podcast, you had to work a few things out before we went live. That's not because you decided to pick up a mic. It's because it's the right thing to do. Right? So technically, become a sound writer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Precise right here on the BV Mobile Apps podcast with Sean Garvey in the studio with Chicago MC, writer for Rolling Out Magazine, hip-hop artist Precise on the telephone lines. And not only that you're a writer, but you are also an actor. I think it's only fair, Precise, that we say we consider you as an actor as well. Because what really surprised me was sitting at home and watching the second season of Empire and seeing you in that courtroom scene where Lucius Lyon, played by Terrence Howard, is about to discover his fate, whether he was going to stay in prison or get out. How did you land that role in Empire? And talk to our listening audience about the role that you played in.
So I played a federal marshal in that season on Empire, and it's another one of those things where it's conspiring with you. So again, that was the second season of Empire. So what was that, like 4 years ago? So about that time. So I just came in from New York. I got invited to a party where Twista was performing. So I get to this party where Twista's performing. I'm meeting a few people, and a woman asked me for my card. So I give her my card, and then I get a call like the next day to come audition for a role on Empire. So I'm like, okay, cool. I've never done anything like this before. My sister, who's an actress and an opera singer and all of that, she helped me go through a few. I rehearsed a few times what I was gonna do, and I got to the audition, and it was like, I didn't get the role, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I still end up getting an email to come in as an extra, like maybe just out of the blue. So, I'm kind of nervous because I've never done anything like this before. And they say, okay, we want you to be a federal marshal. Here's your suit, here's your tie, and this earpiece that they put in your ear. And what your job is to walk Lucius into the courtroom with these other two marshals who were with me. So we walk Lucius into the courtroom, played by Terrence Howard. He stands next to his lawyer, and one of the guys who walked in with me stands next to Lucius. But then Lee Daniels, he's kind of surveying the area. He's like, "Nah, I want you to sit up front." He said, "I want you to come up front next to Lucius." So I go up front, nervous, and boom, that scene is captured. Like about a month later, one of my friends sends me a direct message through Facebook and was like, "Did I miss something?" And this picture that was taken at that specific scene was plastered all in Rolling Stone, USA Today, US Weekly, and all of these things.
Wow.
It was a situation where I was in the right place at the right time, and the universe was just conspiring in my favor.
Wow. Well, that was definitely a good look for you. And so this is an example of how you can, extend your resume from not only just being an artist, being a lyricist, but you can also be an actor, an actress. You can do other things in the entertainment industry, not just only be marginalized or being limited to just being an artist. And we've seen that throughout hip hop history, from Ice Cube going from being a rapper to an actor and doing both. Will Smith, when you think of Fresh Prince, Queen Latifah, the list goes on and on and on. Even Snoop Dogg, even Common. Since we're talking about Chicago earlier, Common, The Brat, a few others, even shout outs to Lupe Fiasco. You mentioned his name earlier. Lupe Fiasco from Chicago as well. He too was also in Empire in a different scene. But I say all that to say, with the aspiring artists and lyricists and hip hop artists that's listening to us right now, how can they extend their resume or their portfolio from being just a rapper and want to do other things in the entertainment industry, like be an actor or an actress? How can one pursue other things in the entertainment industry?
Well, first of all, I would say you have to be bold and just believe in what you're doing. Even before, I was invited to Empire. I was part of a sketch comedy group called the CGX, the Creative Group Experience.
Mm-hmm.
And we work out of a comedy club called Jokes and Notes. So Jokes and Notes is a historic club, a comedy club that was in Chicago. If I just name a few names like Cedric the Entertainer or Lil Rel or the late great Bernie Mac have all performed at this club, right?
Right.
And we were doing a sketch comedy thing there, and it was hilarious. It was funny, but that was an area where I was able to kind of sharpen my skills and become a better actor. I would say put yourself in situations where you're challenged, where your craft is challenged, and you have to step up to the plate and show who you are and show and prove. Again, be bold, be deliberate. Don't let anybody put you in any type of box. Just like you mentioned, you don't have to be known as one thing. You know, Queen Latifah started off as a rapper. Now you can say she's a jazz singer. Ice Cube started off as a rapper. Now he's a movie producer.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all of these things, you know, you never, and nobody is just one thing, and nobody should be afraid of expression. So embrace your expression, be bold, and be available for opportunities that present themselves to you or opportunities that you create for yourself.
What about acting classes? They still have that going on. Can an artist take an acting class or?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. You know, it's just like anything else, man. You don't necessarily need to go to school for anything, but sometimes if you go to school, it might give you that little extra kick, right?
Right.
You don't necessarily have to go to school to be a cook, but there might be a technique that you'll pick up and learn just on the fly.
Yeah.
It's just different things, man. You benefit either way.
Yeah. BV Mobile Apps Podcast is the name of the podcast. I am your host, Sean Garvey, with Precise on the telephone line. We're educating a lot of our listeners about how to build their brand and make it in the industry. We only have a few minutes left right here on the podcast. And most importantly, I want to talk about your app, which is, of course, customized and created by BV Mobile Apps. And shout outs to Gerald Oliveri and Marshall Lyons for making your app look so good. It looks great. It has a variety of everything. Talk to our listeners, how has what was the approach like when BV Mobile Apps came to you and say, hey, Precise, we want to create an app for you? Talk to us about that approach and what was it like?
Well, I mean, it was just basically, I was able to extend a part of myself into a technology that can be prominent on everyone's phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, and then through that technology, I'm able to share with people who I am. It was a great feeling to know that there was a platform out there in order to make something like this accessible to me. Because when you hear about building apps and people working on these things, they always sound complicated, but this was a situation that wasn't complicated at all. I can update my app at any time. I can attach my music to it. I could post stories. I could do everything that you would the other app that you can find on Apple or wherever you purchase your apps. And it looked clean and it looked fresh. And it had my name on it. And I could tell somebody, you know, if they want to know more about me, I could give them all 7 of my social sites, or I could tell them to download my app and find out everything about me.
Mm-hmm. How do you go about marketing the app?
You know, right now, what the best way that I've been doing it is through marketing through the social space, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, mainly through my own blog. You know, I have a banner on my blog that promotes the app, and then just word of mouth, just like anything else. Just tell more people about my app and ask them to download it.
Mm-hmm. What was the response that you received from people when they downloaded the Precise Music app?
So, well, first of all, it's just an official look. Everybody doesn't have an app, so to come to the table and let someone know that you have an app, it gives you it has people look at you differently in terms of how serious you take your craft and how serious they look at how you take your craft. People love being able to go to one space and watch my video. I could point them to specific articles that I've written. It's just an easily accessible app, and you can go wherever you buy applications and buy the Precise Music app. Music it's spelled with a Z, and it's just, it's simple.
Just that simple. I can go download it right now from anywhere from the app marketplace, Google, Amazon, download it to my phone and listen to your music, listen to your interview clips, find out your tour dates and your upcoming projects, things of that nature, right?
Everything is right there.
Everything. All right. Well, definitely. I'm going to. I have four phones right now, right? And 3 of them don't have the Precise app on them. So I need to go ahead and download the Precise Music app. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard me correctly. I have 4 mobile devices. And 3 of them do not have the Precise Music app on them. So I encourage myself and everybody listening to the BV Mobile Apps podcast to please download the Precise Music app. Music spelled with a Z, not a C, but with a Z, which is very unique.
Well, not with an S, but with a Z. So MUZIC.
Right. So go ahead and download that right now to your mobile device, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So Precise. Writer, artist, or actually artist, writer, actor. You got some more things coming up in the works in the near future. Care to share with our listening audience what you got coming up?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, I started a group with my brother Architect out of New York, RAP, Architect and Precise. And we're releasing a project called Album of the Year coming soon. We're just putting the finishing touches up this weekend. As a matter of fact, we're recording the last song. I'm also working on my solo project right now. The working title right now was The Element, and that should come out early, top of 2020. It's going to be about 10 tracks, and right now they're all produced by Backpack Beats. A producer here out of Chicago. I'm just really excited, man. I'm excited about life right now. Just make sure to check out some of my check out my writing on the app, of course. You can catch me on Instagram at @precise_CHI. I'm taking pictures all over the place. That's Precise Photos, PRECISEFOTOS. That's at Precise Photos. At @precise_CHI for Twitter too. So if you want to catch up with me, that's where you can get me.
Final words to our listeners, to our aspiring artists, to our rappers. We in a new age. It's not about CDs anymore. Everything is digital now. And all they trying to do is make it, whether it's through a label or without a label, going independent. What is your advice to give to our artists right now?
I've never been signed to a label, so I don't know what that life is. I know right now in 2019, from the way that I see things, it doesn't make any sense to sign with a label because you can distribute your music through TuneCore and give enough push or you become relevant. There's a gentleman by the name of Lil Nas X who's had the number one song for the past, umpteen weeks, breaking records. Signed to a major label. He made a song in his house and became one of the top selling artists in the world over the course of a year. I'm not saying it's going to happen like that for everybody, but right now you have the ability to make anything you want happen. Just because of the way technology is designed, using a little technology with a lot of elbow grease is going to get you a long way.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Precise on the telephone lines. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. And once again, I want to remind everyone to please download the app right now to your mobile device, your smartphone, whatever device you have. Get that app. The Precise Music app is available right now, ready for you to use. All right. And once again, check him out on Rolling Out Magazine, contributing writer for Rolling Out Magazine. And as far as the acting side, we definitely going to look forward to seeing you in some upcoming film and television projects. I don't think the acting bug has left you alone yet. I don't think so.
Not really. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity.
Absolutely. So once again, your social media handles and how people can reach you?
At Precise_CHI, that's Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me fan page, that's Precise, on Facebook. Those are the easiest and quickest ways to get to me.
All right, Precise on the telephone line.
One more thing. PreciseMusic.com is my website. You can go there too.
There you have it. All right, Precise, thank you so much for being our guest. It's long overdue, but we really appreciate you for being on the BV Mobile Apps podcast.
No problem, brother. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you. And make sure you tune in to another edition of BV Mobile Apps podcast with yours truly, Sean Garvey. Follow me on all social media, Twitter, Instagram at Sean Garvey ATL, and on Facebook at Sean Garvey. For more information, send us an email to podcast@bvmobileapps.com. I got to make a correction. It's actually podcast without the S. So it's podcast@bvmobileapps.com, or you can just simply go to the website bvmobileapps.com. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. This has been the BV Mobile Apps podcast with the architect himself, Sean Garvey.
It's a new year. It's a new day. We're starting it over. Starting the day.
Thank you for listening to the BV Mobile Apps podcast with your host, Sean Garvey. For more information about BV Mobile Apps, visit the website, bvmobileapps.com. Don't forget to follow BV Mobile Apps on social media at BV Mobile Apps. Tune in again next time on the BV Mobile Apps podcast.